Hey guys, it's Galicia from the 12th year, and I'm so excited to be talking about this week's topic, which is self-talk. Um, over the years, as I've been in business, even just period throughout my life, I have always been known to say negative phrases that come to me automatically. They've been conditioned into my head to create these negative thoughts in my head and potentially, destroying my self-esteem or my self-confidence bit by bit. And I think as a business owner, our self-talk is, and even people in general, right? I think all the words that I'm going to talk about today, the self-talk that we have within ourselves, has come to us in one way or another. And I know for myself, my goal this year for 2019 is to be healthier, and not just in mind but also in my body that's my goal for 2019, is to feel good, and do better with my health, and also my mind. And so, as we all know, our thoughts are our biggest critic. Our mind is very powerful. So if we need to change our self-talk, we also need to change the way we think. And it starts with our thoughts, obviously. So before you set out your exercise routine, or if you're planning on eating better, before you start doing those things, you have to start with your mind. And so today I'm going to talk about 10 phrases that you need to change out of this mental state, and start thinking more from a mindset, shifting your mindset into, as we go into 2019. So the first phase, you need to X out of your self-talk vocabulary / phrases, is "I'll do it later." How many of you guys have said that? I'm raising my own hand. I'll do it later. So, obviously by putting it off, maybe it relieves a little bit of stress at the moment, but then it just builds up into more stress when you do it later. So rather than doing it later, we can create a more structured, add some structure around whatever task it is, to be able to create the space that you need to get it done. And I do that by having set days that I do certain tasks in my business. But I also love checklists, and I also love 90-day planning. I also love using my planner. So rather than say I'll do it later, and how many times have you guys put a task on your to-do list, and then it just keeps getting scratched off and moving to the next week and the next week? So rather than say, for example, change my website, rather than saying change my website, what specific task can you create space for in your week that's a lot more smaller and manageable and easy for you to achieve than it is to say I'll do it later? So get really specific. So instead of saying I'll change my website, maybe it's gather new images for my from my 2018 portfolio to update my galleries. That's way more manageable than saying change my website. So, and that will keep you from doing things later, right? So we want to make sure that you're creating specific tasks, and you're creating time in your week that is task specific for those different elements in your business. That will help keep you from saying I'll do it later. Okay, number 2. How many of you guys think the worst of everything? I used to be in that mindset of like, I always think the worst when I'm in a situation. And rather than, when you get into that mentality, you start going down this spiral dive, and it just gets deeper and deeper. And rather than throwing it all up in the air and saying, gosh, that was a total loss, shift your mindset into thinking, rather than seeing the worst, but what are the possible outcomes? So asking yourself, what is the worst case scenario that could happen in this scenario, but what are the outcomes that come with that? So not everything, I mean, all of it could be bad outcomes, but there's always a better choice between the outcomes. And so rather than thinking the worst, ask yourself, what are the possible outcomes instead? And that will help you shift out of that deep dive that we can sometimes get into when we think the worst. Okay. The third phrase that is, oh gosh, this one's a big, heavy duty one. Well, I think they all are, but this one, how many times have you guys said, oh, I'm not good enough to do that. I'm not ready for that. I'm not good enough to do that. I actually went to a conference last year in Palm Springs, and I was listening to a podcast from I can't remember what it was specifically, but this gal, I remember her name was Lynn Whitebeck, and she created this acronym called, and it spells out YES, like YASS. So whenever you're thinking I'm not good enough, bust out your YES acronym and repeat these to yourself. So let me tell you what the YES acronym stands for. Why? Why you? So you can ask yourself, yes, why not you? You add value to whatever task, project, thing that you're wanting to do. You add value to it some way, shape, or form. A, allow yourself to fail, because when you fail, you get back up and you've learned something. So saying, repeating that to yourself is like, it's okay to fail. Give yourself permission to fail. S, see success. I think that's really, when we're in the heat of like, oh, I'm not good enough, you can't really see that you're the potential in that. And so if you can reframe your mindset to see what success looks like for you, maybe it's not the big picture, maybe it's just a step forward, that is still success. Baby steps, right? And S, surge forward, which is what I was talking about. Take a chance, take a leap, move forward, because if you don't, you'll never know, right? So whenever you're thinking, oh, I'm not good enough to do that, think of the YES acronym and change and shift your mindset over. Okay, number 4. Gosh, I have 3 pages worth of notes, guys. How many of you guys have said, I'll be happy when? I know I have. I've said that. It's super dangerous when you tie your happiness to your achievement. Remind yourself that you can be happy now. You don't have to wait to be happy when those things when you accomplish those things. How can you cultivate happiness now? And the best way to do that is a gratitude attitude, right? So take a few minutes and write down all the things that you're grateful for, because we have so much to be grateful for. And that brings me right back in. Instead of saying, oh, I'll be happy when I get 10 clients, or I'll be happy when I lose 15 pounds. I'll be happy. No, find happiness now, because you can be happy right now. Gratitude attitude. Number 5, this phrase, I've heard this one too before, and I've actually said it myself. I shouldn't feel this way. And this is when you start judging yourself for the emotions that you're having, which I was like, actually somebody brought this to my attention several years ago. When you judge your own emotions, it's like judging your body temperature, and you can't control your body temperature. That's just the way your body's functioning. And it's whether it's fighting a fever or it's or whatever the case is, you can't control your own emotions. And you shouldn't judge your own emotions. That's what I should be saying. So instead of instead of feeling bad for it, you should just let it happen. There's a reason that these things are happening, and see the silver lining in whatever situation it is. All right, number 6. This always happens to me. How many of you guys have said that phrase? This always happens to me. This is the type of thinking that paints you as the victim. It paints you, or it puts you in this like unfair situation, right? And when you're put in that situation, when you put yourself in that situation, it starts to lead you down to have negative thoughts. And we all know that when you have negative thoughts and you feel like the victim, this is how the world, or how the people outside, or the people that are looking in, will start to treat you. And if you can acknowledge the situation, the trick is to acknowledge the situation and turn it around and move forward. And that is probably easier said than done. But if you can picture yourself saying, "Oh, this always happens to me," and then the next words that utter out to you, change them around. Bummer, this happened to me, and now how are you going to move forward? All right. Number 7, how many of you guys have said, I should have, I could have, I would have, all of those different phrases? I should have. Gosh, I know I kick myself every time that I say that, because after I say I should have, it leads to a disappointment. Something that I should have done, right? And it becomes a disappointment. It becomes a missed opportunity. And it can also lead to unhealthy comparison. And it could eat away at you, right? So rather than, again, saying I should have, just shift your mindset before you start having those thoughts, and let it go. Let it go. It happened. It happened. What can you learn from it? How can you move forward? How many of you guys said this one? Number 8, I'm such an idiot. Double hands for me. Over time, we become our biggest critic. And when we do that, if we continue down this path of I'm such an idiot, not only do we stop taking action because we're afraid that we're going to mess up even more, we start making more excuses. We even have conversations with people about this very thing, and those people have that they return that verbiage that you're telling to them. That's how they're going to talk to you. So not only do you stop, you start making more excuses, but you just stop. You stop taking that chance. You stop following through, because you start to act and live like you're not enough. That was when I was doing some journaling around this. That one was a big one. Like, you start acting like you're not good enough when you say I'm such an idiot. I was like, woo! Big light bulb moment for me. So rather than saying I'm such an idiot, say 3 things to yourself. Make a list of 3 things of what you love about yourself. Another thing you could replace that with are 3 things that you're really good at. And maybe it's not just 3 things. Maybe you have 5 things. Maybe you have 1 thing. Whatever it is, it's better than saying I'm such an idiot, because you're not. Okay, so that was number 8. Lori, I know we all can relate to these at some point. Number 9, it's not perfect. Been there too. I still struggle with this one too. It's not perfect. Guess what, people? Progress over perfection. When you have this mentality of not allowing yourself to move forward because you want things to be perfect, you are robbing yourself of an opportunity to learn a new skill set or a new role. And when this happens, you start to feel I mean, if you say, oh, I have to wait until this is 100% perfect, no one knows what your 100% is. No one knows what your perfection looks like. And so why keep holding yourself back and not taking the step forward or taking that next step if people don't know what your 100% is, what your perception of perfect is. And so I say, come in at 70%. Shoot, come in at 80 or at 50%. Whatever your capability is right now, show up. And I promise you, no one will know what your perfection is. Love that. And as a matter of fact, I shared with some of my mastermind bootcamp people that I don't show up at 100%. I try to show up bare minimum 70%. Sometimes it's less than that, and that's okay because no one knows my 100%. All right, the last one. Oh, and I think one thing that you could say with that too is that instead of saying, instead of thinking, oh, it's not perfect yet, you can say, progress over perfection. Or this other mantra that I like to, or this affirmation that I really like too is, everything I put good effort into will result in learning to do something better and better. I love that because nothing will ever be 100% perfect. We are not perfect human beings. And neither are the things that we do. We have some elements of perfection, but no one knows what your perfect is. And so why not? Just go for it. Okay. And the last one I wrote down is, I don't know how. Oh, I've seen this. I've even said that to myself. I don't know how. And the secret to getting started is to just do. Sometimes it's just taking the one step, because the next step will reveal itself. One of my favorite quotes that I have written on my vision board is, action leads to clarity. And sometimes have you ever felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do? You feel overwhelmed. Sometimes just even asking for help will bring clarity into what your next step is. And maybe it's not just asking for help. Maybe it's asking questions. I remember my son, he was really struggling with his academics in college, and he just was about to throw the towel in. And I said, rather than just throw the towel in, to find out what you can do, you have to ask questions. You have to go to your professors and ask, like, what can I do? Ask your counselor, what can I do? And then they'll tell you, and then you can decide what option, what path is your best option. But you can't do that unless you take that first step. So ask yourself, take the first step, and the next step will reveal itself. Just do. And that's my wrap of 10 phrases that you can eliminate in 2019 to get out of that self-talk that we have in our mind, because we know the mind is a very powerful thing. And I know a book that I really love reading, and I've actually read it several times, is You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. I really love that she talks about your mind is a very powerful thing, and what you focus on becomes your reality. So if you're thinking, gosh, I don't have enough clients, guess what? You don't have enough clients. Or I don't have enough money. Guess what? You're not going to have enough money. What you think about, what you focus on, will become your reality. And negative self-talk, all of these phrases that I talked about today, are going to show up in one way or another. And I'm not saying you're going to change it overnight, but be aware of how you're talking to yourself and how you're limiting yourself, because in the end, we're the ones that hold ourselves back. Everything and anything is possible in this world. And when you can just shift your mindset on the way that on how you talk to yourself, the possibility is endless. You are limitless. And that is my talk for today. I hope you guys learned something. Please tell me in the comments what you're going to apply or implement this this year, what phrases you want to take out, how you're going to take action. I'd love to see how you guys are going to do that as well. Have a great week. We'll see you later. Bye.